Hi everybody, Joel Kennedy with Kennedy Violins. So what violin case should you buy and what's the difference? Well, cases are like, purses or backpacks. More than likely, if you play the violin long enough, you're probably going to have more than one case. And the reason for that is that different cases have different uses. So I'm going to talk about that today. Now, I have 3 cases here today. There's a lot of different kinds of violin cases, but these are the 3 primary ones. So if you're looking to buy a violin case, you're probably going to be deciding between these 3 different types of cases. Okay, so the first case that I'll talk about is the shaped case, right? Sometimes they call them arrow cases or whatever, but I call them shaped cases. It's kind of because it's not oblong, right? So these cases, they have a lot of pros, but they have a lot of cons as well. So this is one of those cases that you probably aren't going to want to use on a daily basis. But the number one great thing about these shaped cases is that they're small and they're super light. So sometimes they're made out of foam like this one, or sometimes they're made out of fiberglass or even carbon fiber, but they're great for traveling, especially on the airplane. So if you plan on traveling on the plane, I highly recommend you get some kind of shaped case like this Portland shaped case here, because you can wear them as a backpack, so it's practically invisible because it's small when you're carrying it. So if you're going on the airplane, the stewardesses generally, or flight attendants, sorry, they generally, don't notice that you even got a violin, because sometimes they'll give you a hard time, they'll want to take it or something like that and put it in some closet or whatever. And but they fit in the overhead bin really well. So a lot of times, especially if you're sitting in the back of the plane, you're like sweating, you're like, I don't know if I have room for my violin in the overhead bin. The flight attendant might take it, But chances are, even if the overhead compartments are pretty full, you'll probably still be able to fit this in there. So that's one really great thing. It just reduces a lot of stress, when you're flying. Now, here's the bad parts, okay? So generally, the shaped cases, they will only have provisions for 2 bows, which is, usually enough. So you have your primary bow and your backup, or your indoor bow and your outdoor bow, like a carbon fiber or whatever. But anyways, it's got provisions for 2 instead of 4. There's hardly any storage, right? So you just have a little compartment right here. So, you might have to get a little creative about where you put your shoulder rest if you use one. Generally, if you have a shoulder rest, you're going to put it upside down underneath the neck of the violin in this compartment right here. Now, whatever shaped case you buy, you do want to make sure that it is full suspension. So that means that, you've got these little pillows here at the bottom, which means they raise your violin up, right? So that means the back of your violin never comes in contact with the case. So if you drop your case or whatever, there's no shock to your instrument. So whatever case you buy, you should definitely get full suspension. So there's not a lot of storage in this. You can put your shoulder rest, you can put your rosin and some mutes in there, but it is minimal. Now you have a pocket, thank goodness, for sheet music, but not a lot. And it's not terribly big, so if you've got one of those really big books, or if you're a pianist and you've got scores or whatever, it's not going to fit in there. But it will fit, some of the, like a Suzuki book or something like that, I think. That's a limiting factor. Now, a lot of shaped cases, they have 0 compartments on the outside, especially the fiberglass ones. So if you're thinking about getting a flashy, really cool, shaped fiberglass case, consider the fact that it probably doesn't have storage. So whatever your music is or whatever, you're probably gonna have to carry an extra bag. Well, that kind of sucks. So you got to think about that. Okay, so they're light, fantastic to travel with, but they don't offer a lot of storage, and they don't protect your instrument generally as well either, because there's just not as much there. And if it's made out of foam, it's not going to be as strong as like a carbon fiber or a wood shell case. So that's the shaped case. Okay, next up is the carbon fiber oblong. So you can get all kinds of synthetic materials that are either shaped or oblong. And sometimes they're fiberglass, sometimes they're some kind of cheap plastic, sometimes they're carbon fiber, or they just look carbon fiber. But the reason why people buy these cases is because they're cool looking, right? Because you can get a lot of really neat colors. Like this is a Portland carbon fiber oblong case, and it comes in a lot of cool colors, red, blue, black, white. You won't see that kind of flashiness a lot of times with the wood shell cases. But the great thing about these cases is that they offer a ton of protection for your instrument, because they're super strong. I mean, you could stand on this. I'm 200 pounds. I couldn't buckle the top. So they offer you tons of protection. This particular one, right, this Portland case here is, it's full suspension. It has a lock on it. It's got provisions for 4 bows. It's got a hygrometer. You got quite a bit of storage. Not as much storage as a wood shell case, but a decent amount. So you got a packet here so you can store. And this is kind of typical for a lot of carbon fiber oblong cases. So you know, the Portland one is this way, but most of the carbon fiber oblong cases are going to be kind of similar. So that's why I'm using this as a model, right? So you've got a storage here, you know, you've got storage, you've got a provisions here where you can put your shoulder rest, right? It's full suspension, right? So, and now it's bigger, so you can put your 4 bow holders. Now, one drawback to these cases a lot of the times is that they don't have any way to carry your sheet music. Now, this one happens to have provisions for that. So if you do decide to buy a carbon, you know, some kind of synthetic fully oblong case, you know, if it's not a Portland, right, there's a pretty good chance it's not going to have provisions for your sheet music. So you should really pay attention to that, because that sucks, because then you got to carry an extra bag for, you know, for your music, and so it's like, well, okay, that's pretty inconvenient. So you want to make sure you got that bag. But yeah, so the pros, super strong, they got a pretty good amount of storage, and they're cool looking. Downsides, and they're light as well. The downsides are, you know, they're big, so they're not as good for travel, you know, and you can't store, you know, quite as much. Okay, so that's the carbon fiber, and sometimes they're really expensive too. So that's the carbon fiber. Okay, last case. Now this is a typical wood shell case, right? Now you can get oblongs made out of a lot of materials, including foam. So a lot of the really inexpensive violins will come with a full oblong case, but they're made out of foam. So obviously they're going to be super light, but they're not going to offer the protection that a wood shell would. So the reason why a lot of people choose these cases, this is a Portland Elite case here. So this is going to be the most practical case for you. And so it's going to offer you fantastic protection for your instrument because it's a wood shell case. You can stand on this one if you want, you know, or somebody just happens to sit on it or something, or maybe you're waiting for the bus or you're waiting for the train or whatever. You can use it as a chair and you can sit on it. Maybe not all wood shell cases you can do that with, but you know, some of them. Anyhow, the Portland ones are super strong. So anyways, but the advantages to these cases is that, you know, they have tons of storage, right? Super easy. You know, it's full suspension, which is pretty common. You got these really nice big compartment here. You can put your shoulder rest in. You can put your shoulder rest here underneath the neck. You got a giant compartment here. You can put just all your stuff in here, your gadgets, or put a sack lunch in here. I don't know. Even in some of the cases, they'll even have an additional little compartment here. You got provisions for 4 bow holders. You got a string tube for your fancy pants strings, you know, that you don't want to store wound. You want to store them nice and straight, okay? And then you've got this giant pocket at the top, right? So you can put all your sheet music and whatever kind of gadgets or what in here. It also is really protected from the weather. It doesn't scuff easily. You know, sometimes these cases, you know, especially if you get white, don't wear white. You know, if you wear white, you know, you could scuff it and then it looks bad, and so you have to be kind of more careful about it. But yeah, and so the cases like this Portland Elite case here, they're going to just offer, you know, the maximum protection, the maximum amount of storage, and you can choose different interior colors: blue, red, pink, gray, a lot of great stuff. So yeah, so that's basically in a nutshell. That's what kind of that's the difference between all the different cases. So if you guys have any questions, you know, put them in the comments. You know, I answer, you know, most of the comments when people ask me questions. Of course, if you have any additional questions, you know, call up Kennedy Violins, you know, because we are all players and teachers. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I think it's right there. So yeah. Anyways, I hope you found this video helpful. If you guys have any, like I said, questions, give us a call. And I hope you guys have a great day.